Good afternoon, gentlemen. This is an odd video because I originally was going to review the Finch Primer, or maybe the Principia Apocrypha, or maybe I was going to talk about no games or why people disagree with one another, and all those were very negative topics. And something happened where I kind of brought it all together into a new script about how to be a happy person in life. And the connection there may not be obvious, but it was for me. And maybe it will be to you by the end of this. And either way, I think this is a cool video. So I really have four main points about being happy, how to be a happy person. And these, we're just going to go through them one by one before we list them out. They are uh, number one is to have principles. So believe in truth in life. Truth is really out there, it really exists, and it can be found with effort. That is a very key thing. You can find the truth with effort. You can then work on your ability to articulate what you know in life to other people, to lots of different kinds of people. In the D&D context, this is people who play different games, different rules, different styles of table, dungeons, whatever. And in terms of having principles, you want to be able to adjust those principles if any new evidence comes to light, the scientific method, that sort of thing. Spend time thinking about your principles. Could they be misinterpreted? Or are they, maybe your principles are wrong and you realize they're wrong because they're not making you happy, they're not leading to the truth, which really does exist. And, well, when you have principles, you certainly wouldn't want to turn anyone away when they are reaching out to you to try to understand where you're coming from. So that kind of ties back in with the idea of being able to articulate your principles. So that's number one. Number two is to be empathic, to have empathy. So trying to make friends and socialize well with others. This is a funny one because just the idea of he doesn't play well with others. Uh, Life is a lot more enjoyable, basically, when you know lots of people and you always have cool stuff to do with your time because there's always stuff going on and there's always stuff you're invited to, whatever. I really strongly recommend being more sociable and trying to make as many friends as possible in life, especially as they move away or whatever. Eventually you get older, people start dying, is what it is. But part of empathy as well is being willing to let arguments or discussions go, the ability to agree to disagree, even though that is technically impossible, doesn't really matter. You can still, say, we don't need to actually have this conversation or this argument. It's fine. And then maybe it will be resolved at some later time after something changes in someone, either you or the other person or a group of people, whatever. Maybe it won't. It doesn't really matter. Life is short, so it's not really worth burning bridges or cutting people off for no real reason. You can just let things cool off. It's completely fine. You don't have to keep talking to each other every day. I've had many cases in my life where someone, we got into a big argument or whatever, and then we're just like, yeah, we're not going to talk to each other, but we're going to, maybe a year, maybe it takes a year, maybe it takes 2 years, but then you'll end up talking to each other again, and you're both in different places in your life, and then the argument you had seems stupid in comparison to where you are now. So you can always come back later after you've had an epiphany or changed your mind or have no ideas to share. I mean, even in like a day-to-day sense, the idea that you would, discuss some philosophy of gaming or some rule, and it comes into a big argument, and uh, you go away for a couple of days, and then you come back and like, okay, hey, I've thought about it some more, and here's what I think. These are differences. So I think all that is a component of empathy. And then moving on here to number three is just positivity in general, being positive. In the D&D, in the gaming context, this would mean, for example, actually engaging with the hobby that you're into. So you really do need to play games, run games, write material, whatever, however you want to engage with the hobby. But you do need to engage with it genuinely. I think you'll be a much happier person that way if you are engaged in a positive fashion. I don't know if you can hear the rice cooker, but the rice cooker has just finished and it's playing its little ditty, which that's another way to be happy, is to have a rice cooker that sings to you. In any event, the in terms of positivity, contributing to discussions, specifically when you really do have something to contribute. Don't feel compelled to contribute to every discussion, but when you do have something that's worth saying, for example, someone asks about a subject that a module, for example, that you have played, you can definitely talk to them about it, and you really do want to contribute, like be sort of genuine with it. Actually, say a lot up front. Don't do drive-bys. This little thing where you kind of have a little snarky comment or whatever, and you drive by. What is that? That's bull. Don't do that. Really, truly say what you want to say, and then maybe stick around and answer questions. People are going to want to know more. They're going to ask you follow-up questions like, well, what about this, huh? Blah, blah, blah. That's all great. And you really do want to speak from your real experience as much as possible. Speaking from theory is a great way to become unhappy. I think, anyway. It's going to certainly make other people unhappy as they realize that you're full of it. But I think personally, you will have an enjoyable time being able to talk about stuff that really did happen to you. I've noticed this with people, especially. It's a kind of an odd example, but politics. So people will talk about their opinions, and it's like you're not really. That's just like theory. That's nonsense. But when you get people talking about their actual life experiences, the reasons that led them to think the things they do, I feel like that people are also happier to express those thoughts. Certainly, I am happy to speak from my experience, and I hope that it's valuable for the other person. So, of course, in the gaming sense, it's talking about your actual real games that you really did play. And then just another part of positivity is when other people are talking and you don't understand them, you can, rather than try to attack them, try to ask them questions like what's up, try to suss out like, hey, what's going on here? I don't really understand this. And you can say that too. I don't understand. Can you explain more? What's this particular thing about? And of course, sometimes you will talk to people and they don't know what they're talking about. They don't. You ask a question and they can't answer it because they don't understand what they're saying. And sometimes they might realize this, and it can actually be quite valuable to ask the question, get them to reveal that they don't know what they're talking about, and then just back away. You don't have to keep the conversation going. Just forget it, move on, do something else with your time. They will look stupid and feel stupid, and then hopefully that will cause an epiphany in their own mind that I need to. Maybe they really do have something valuable to say, and they can go back and think about it some more, and then come back later and be like, "Hey guys, I'm sorry. Here's what I was really trying to say." That would be cool. And it does happen, so I think it's worthwhile. And you can just walk away. You don't have to. Your job is done once you've sort of, you realize you can't get something out of the interaction, something positive out of the interaction. You don't have to keep it going. You can just walk away. So keeping things positive in general, great principle. And the last one here is just about being secure in your life. Another way to be very happy, especially in the context of this hobby. So the thing here with the hobby is you want to be happy before, be secure and thus happy in your life, basically, before you dive in to the hobby. Using the hobby as an outlet for your personal unhappiness in other areas of your life is just going to tick everyone off. It's not going to make you feel any better, and you're going to just annoy other people. And this is another good habit to build where if you're unhappy, don't pull out your phone and load up Discord. Do something else. Go for a walk or watch a movie or whatever. Go do some chores, shopping, anything. Something else to keep your mind off of it than rather engage with a hobby when you're not feeling happy, when you're not feeling good. And when you are in a secure place in life, you can then engage the hobby more honestly and easily because the online portion that where you're talking to people online doesn't matter as much. You can just walk away whenever because you're secure and you're happy. You're not using it for something. You're engaging with it because it's fun. It's like a little fun thing instead of being some sort of weird obligation or something that you're trying to use to some other purpose. And then, when you're secure like that, you don't have to argue with people. You can see a conversation and just decide, you know what, I'm not going to say anything. I don't care. I don't need to engage with this conversation. I don't need to get upset if people are disagreeing with me or with others or whatever. I don't need to take a side if I don't want to. I don't need to have a reason. If I don't have a reason to take a side, I don't have to take one. If I don't have an opinion, I don't have to take a side. That whole thing is, when you're secure, you don't have to take sides like that. Your ego is not invested in any of it. It doesn't have to be invested. Your ego is in your normal life that is secure and you're happy because you make enough money. You have good personal relationships, you have good romantic prospects, whatever, good relationship with family, that sort of thing. Those are the things you really need to focus on before, I don't know, bringing that to the table in the gaming community, which is a bit weird. But another big part of being secure is trying to spend time understanding where other people are coming from and seeing if there is something to learn there. One of the things, if you're secure and someone challenges you or criticizes you, like you write a module and you post it, and someone says, I don't like it, or recently I released the Monster Treasure Book and people are giving me feedback, which for the most part is fairly positive. So but there's some negativity in there that I think other people that I've known in my life were not secure enough to handle, and their ego, they can't take it, they lose their minds. But when you're secure and you're happy, you don't need your ego's not invested in the same way. You can take the feedback for what it's worth. People might be wrong. They might not even give you good feedback. And yeah, you can just sort of take it for what it's worth. And even the thing is, I'm wrong all the time, and I don't care. I mean, the goal is to figure it out. Like if I'm wrong, you know. So if people give criticism, it's like, well, okay, they told me that they didn't like this monster. They think the way it works is stupid. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna use it in a game and see what happens, or make the changes that they suggested and use that in the game and see what happens. And then if it turns out that if they were right, I can send them a message and say, hey, thank you so much for that feedback. I tried to work with it, and it was made things a lot better for me. Or hey, I followed your feedback and I really don't think it's right. You can just have these disagreements in a much calmer fashion. It's really not a big deal. So the ability to be sort of anti-fragile, take criticism, is a great way to be happy. You can then, another odd one, I don't know why this is my last note for this, but be secure. Speaking plainly and not engaging with sophistry and word games. I really think I guess that is something to the idea of security, where you don't have to get involved in like weird conversations. You can just sort of be like, well, this was my actual real personal experience or whatever, and I don't know more than that. I don't need to speculate beyond that. That's what I know, and then we can try to figure out from there. Like, well, if we're trying to learn some new thing or do something different, we can go from there. But I have this thing to fall back on that I know is true, and I can speak plainly about it. I think that's what I meant. Anyway, so the whole thing here, the idea of having principles, which is believing in truth for starters, having principles, having empathy, having a positive outlook, and being secure in yourself. These are 4 great ways to be happy. I think they relate a lot to the D&D hobby online. I think there are quite a few people who are not I think they're getting caught up in I don't know, using the hobby as an outlet maybe for something. And I'm not, when I say this, I'm not trying to like look at other people and be like, hey, you're definitely doing this. I'm really looking at it from my perspective. Like, I have done these things and I see other people doing them, and I'm going to try to stop doing this stuff as much as possible. And I hope that other people will also take this journey with me, I suppose, is one way of putting it. Just especially really everything I've talked about. There really is nothing in particular in here that's any more or less important than the others. Well, anyway, that's the video. Maybe someone will get some joy out of this. Yeah, I will see you gentlemen later. Peace.